Hey guys, Ryan Dossey, and in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how I helped a buddy of mine get over a 2% response rate in some of the trendiest parts of downtown Dallas. Let's dive right in. Chances are that if you're marketing for your own deals in 2021, you've noticed that the landscape has changed a little bit. For instance, a couple years ago, we'd really pushed the angle of like sell for cash, sell for cash. Well, anybody can sell their house for cash on the MLS right now. So we've pivoted and we're now pushing the angle more of sell without paying any realtor commissions, or like leave all the junk, we'll take it as is, right? But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of advice on targeting and who you should be mailing to. This is probably one of the biggest questions I get asked, like, hey Ryan, who should I mail to, or what list should I pull? And I've got a whole bunch of these on my YouTube channel of like how to pull this list, how to pull that list. But I realize that can be a little bit overwhelming when I've got like 20 or 30 of those. Like, how do you pick which one you should do this time? Do you just pick a random one, then try a different one? So I'm going to show you what I did for a friend of mine in downtown Dallas. Now, before I dive into this too much, I often advise people that are wholesaling or fix and flipping that really aren't super picky about where or what deals they're finding, that they start by figuring out what wholesale zip codes have like the most volume going on in them, and by targeting those. I'll link to a training above on how to pull that in case that's what you're looking for. This video though is more for fix and flippers or buy and hold guys that are very particular of like, I want this kind of property in this zip code or in these particular neighborhoods. My buddy Michael that we did this with in Dallas was like, hey, I want to be in these very specific areas. So this was how we did it. First thing you're going to need is a Propstream account. They do have a free 7-day trial, but they're a tool that I've used and paid for years, and one that I'm happy to endorse. So once you've got your account set up, you're going to hop in here into Propstream. And for the sake of this particular example, let's say that I'm targeting Miami. Now, Miami is obviously a hot market, so just targeting every absentee owner is probably not in your best interest, unless you have just like a stupid marketing budget to play with, right? So first thing we're going to add in here is an equity filter, and this really doesn't change. We're going to do 35 to 100%. Now, if we notice in all of Miami, there's 403,169 of them, quite a bit. We're going to narrow it down a little bit further, and obviously this is where you personalize in what you're looking for. So if you're looking for just single family or duplexes or condos or whatever, this is kind of where you'd target that. But for the sake of this example, I'm going to do single family. Now, this is my recommendation if there's very particular stuff that you want, particularly if you're in a hot market. Don't get me wrong, I mail to absentee owners all the time, especially those that have stuff going on. Sometimes they don't. I just like their particular property. But realistically, if you're in a market like Miami, if somebody's an absentee owner, they are drowning in postcards, in mail, in cold calls, in texts, all that stuff about their houses, right? So what are we going to do to stand out? Well, for starters, we're going to target the owner-occupants. Now, this is a little bit counterintuitive to what most investors or like coaches, people like me, are going to tell you, but this is what I've personally been recommending to people in more competitive markets. And all we're going to do is hit several of like the Propstream niche lists, as I call them, combine those into one list, and then send it over to Ballpoint. It's who I'm using, it's who you should be using. So we're going to hop in here. First thing we're going to do is expired. And you could do within the last year, last 2 years even. This is one of my favorite lists. I've talked about this heavily before, but what do most people say when you make them an offer and they don't like it? Well, I'll just list it on the MLS. Well, with this list, well, how'd that work for you last time, right? Like, we've got that Uno reverse sitting in our back pocket. So first thing I would do is pull this list, and we can see there's 1,271 owner-occupants with equity who raised their hand, tried to sell it, and couldn't. Now, somebody who was listed back in 2020, well, properties are a little bit more expensive than they were, or properties now are a little bit more expensive than they were back then. You might be able to pay their asking price and they might be thrilled to get it, right? So as you're coming up with these various niches, what you're going to do is check this checkbox here. You're going to click add to list, create a new one, and you're going to call it, whatever you want. Miami niche list, for instance. And you click save. And give it a second to buffer. And what we're going to do is compile a bunch of these smaller niche lists into one larger list. Now, one of the next ones we're going to do that we've had really good luck with, we're going to keep excluding properties that are on the market because realistically we're looking for off-market deals. I'm assuming that if it's on market, you've probably seen it and decided it wasn't a good deal for you. Now we're going to hop into liens. We're going to do that they have an active lien. We're going to do a minimum amount of $1,000. So you can see there's actually 7,000 of those. So might want to do a little bit higher. I'm not trying to add that many people. $5,000 drops it down to $4,150. So I'll probably go up again. $10,000 at $2,861. That's a little bit better. People in Miami have a ton of liens. I actually don't normally have to go anywhere near this high in my markets. So 15,000 gives us 2,000 owner occupants that have equity, are not listed on the MLS, and they owe 15 grand or more in liens to somebody. So that's pretty solid. You can hop in here and get a little bit more specific on like what. I don't normally do that. So I would just go ahead and take this one now and save it. Going to do add to list, and we're going to do our Miami niche list and click save. Again, give it a couple seconds to buffer. Now, keep in mind, if you're an investor in Miami, you're probably not targeting all of Miami. You're going to be in a couple of zip codes. So these quantities we're talking about, like I'm already up to 3,000 records, you're probably going to be significantly below that because you're fishing in a smaller pool, if that makes sense. Now we're going to come back into here. We're going to remove the lien. And we're going to go into bankruptcy. Now, I like active as well as dismissed bankruptcies. We can be honest. Typically, somebody ends up in bankruptcy due to things not going great, like personally, financially, or maybe some bad decisions. And in my experience, a lot of the bankruptcies that get dismissed actually end up being sold at a discount or going back into bankruptcy. So there's 2,410 of those. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to our Miami niche list, and we're going to go ahead and save those suckers. Perfect. That's saved. So we're going to do a different list now. We're going to cut that. We're going to come into pre-foreclosure and bank-owned, and we're going to do notice of default or lis pendens. Basically means it's in pre-foreclosure. Now, keep in mind, we're only marketing to the ones that have equity, meaning these are the people that can afford to sell to us at a discount. So we got 803 of those. And we're going to click add to list. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Perfect. Next one we're going to do is properties that were inherited. So there's 2,786 of those. Thought process behind this, maybe they inherited something that needs some work and they haven't been able to put the cash into fixing it. We're going to go ahead and add that to our Miami list as well. I'm getting close to my Propstream 10,000 limit on this particular one. So, but keep in mind, you're not going to be doing all of Miami. You're going to be doing a smaller area. 2,786. So those are saved. Some other ones that we could do if we're looking to get a little bit more creative. We could target properties that included a seller carryback. meaning when they bought the house, the person they bought it from gave them some sort of a loan or mortgage to help them qualify for that. So there's 468 of those. If you wanted to add those, click, go add to list. That can be a good one. A lot of people will go ahead and exclude people who bought their property with cash or who own it free and clear, but I've got a lot of properties I've bought from people that didn't have a mortgage, so don't let that freak you out. Other things we could look at, or another like common one that you'll hear, is vacancy. Follow me on this logic though. You don't want to mail an owner-occupant of a vacant property because it's vacant. They're not living there. They're not going to get your mail, right? Another list that we could add in here would be divorce. Now, in my experience, Propstream doesn't have a ton of divorce data in all of Miami. They've only got 159, but those would be worth marketing to. So that's another list you could do. Another way to kind of like narrow this is don't just target geographically, target by the actual assets that you want. So if you're looking for places with like 3 bedrooms or more, 1,500 square feet or more, whatever those things might be, you can always add those in to kind of squish down these lists as well. Now, before you export the list, you're always going to go over to the My Properties tab over here. You're going to pull up the niche list that you've got. And we're going to clean this up a little bit. So just sold, meaning somebody just bought the house. I don't want to mail to that. So I would go ahead and remove those from my mailing list. So how I'm going to do that, I'm going to hit this checkbox right here. I'm going to click Actions, and I'm just going to click Delete Records. So that'll remove those 57. That, in a nutshell, is how we're going to find smaller niches to target of owner-occupants in the desirable places in your market. It's a great way to potentially land a deal without having to just like blast every absentee owner that exists. You're also likely going to be getting in front of people that are not getting very much mail, let alone not getting anything quite like what Ballpoint can produce. I hope this helps you as much as it's helped my other clients. Be sure to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Again, my name is Ryan Dossey. I'll talk to you next time.